Hey, hey, hey. What's up? What's up? Been a couple days. How y'all doing? How's it going? Give y'all a few minutes to come on in. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How y'all doing? This is Real Talk with ZSJ. I'm your host, Zakiya Sankara Jabbar, and this is an impromptu discussion today. This was not planned. So I'm gonna give y'all a few minutes to come on in. But in the meantime, make sure you like the video. Also, please share the video and invite others to come on in. Hopefully, we can have a robust discussion. I don't want to keep you all long, but this is something that was just on my heart today. It's actually been on my heart for a while, but it's something that's been on my heart today. And today is Giving Tuesday. For so many of you, if you're on social media, you've been seeing lots of people posting about the amazing, work that they're doing, and it is good work. I want to be really clear about that. It is definitely good work. However, one of the things that I've noticed over the years is someone who has been in social justice work, so to speak, somebody who's been in social justice work. I've noticed there has been a trend insofar as corporations who are not paying their fair share in taxes have set up what's called foundations, and they get to pick and choose, their pet projects or what they want to give money to. And so that's called philanthropy, it's called charity. And it's really ballooned over the years. If people, haven't noticed, it's a ballooning industry. It's continuing to grow. However, my view is that it's also continuing to grow inequality. I think we all cheer when we, read headlines. Oh, Jeff Bezos, who is, as you all know, the founder and CEO of Amazon, has given $50 million to X, Y, and Z. And so that kind of framing and those kind of articles are like, oh, that's so generous, but it doesn't give the full view. He is not just a billionaire, but a multi-billionaire. Make sure you like the video and share if you're watching. But he's a multi-billionaire. And so him paying taxes would go a much longer way and a much longer distance than him deciding to, pick a charity or start his own foundation and basically hire staff to decide what he wants to support or not, right? And so that's something that's been kind of like bothering me for a number of years. I've been on this side of receiving grants, certainly, for the work that we do, and we're grateful. But I have always kind of like been in this work where like this should not necessarily be a career, so to speak. Like this, we should be working to put ourselves out of business. And I'm afraid it's going in the opposite direction. So that's what made me want to go live today to just talk about it, because today is Giving Tuesday. It's, lots of money, is being transferred. And it's not just like billionaires, it's like everyday people are also deciding to give, but it's certainly not the kind of justice that we need, particularly even before COVID. We had a ballooning homelessness population. Most of the homeless in this country are unfortunately African Americans, particularly descendants of enslaved Africans in this country. And you see it in all of the cities where gentrification is an issue. You see it in all of the cities where we're being pushed out systemically. So I also see there, because of COVID-19, this is something else I want to talk about. And this may be controversial, but, feel free to put, stuff in the comments if you have any comments. It could be engaging, but also share the video, like the video and share it, because I want to invite more people into the space to talk about this issue. But also one of the things that I've noticed over this since COVID has been here is mutual aid, which is wonderful. We absolutely should be doing mutual aid to support the immediate needs in our communities. But I've always had an issue with, charity work, and not in billionaires like necessarily will fund charity work, but won't fund the policy, the hard work that it takes to actually get government elected officials to actually enact policies that would be more equitable in terms of making people pay their fair share in taxes. That is something that I think is critically important. And I don't think that we talk enough about. I think we need, a robust, taxation policy, particularly for people who don't necessarily make their wealth from quote unquote hard work. Like that's what we get taught, right, in school or, our families or whatever we taught, we're taught, you're supposed to go to work, you work hard, and that's how you become a millionaire. That's actually not true. And I say that as someone who has been studying financial markets the last several months. And it's been astonishing how people literally make money in their sleep, and they make money off of a formula, off of a stock market, off of futures, off of basically a program that people set up and created, and it makes them money, right? And, it's stocks and bonds and now cryptocurrency and, and I'm all for regular people like learning how to participate and all that. I'm not like, anti any of that. The problem is that most of us will never see $1 billion. That's the issue. Most of us are actually closer to being homeless. Most of us are actually closer to not having all of our needs met than we would ever be to being a billionaire. And that's something that I don't think we talk enough about, especially like on days like this, Giving Tuesday. And keep in mind, the organization that I co-founded that my husband works with now, and we have, their staff and everything, of course, they participated today. It's almost like you have to survive. But that is not justice. Dr. Cornel West always says charity is not justice. And that has stuck with me since I met him in 2012 at Wittenberg University in Springfield, Ohio. And to me, those words like speak to exactly what we see happening right now. Where we see our politicians are constantly infighting. Most of our politicians, the other thing we don't talk about, they're also multimillionaires. Some of them are billionaires. Many of them also have stocks and bonds and all of these different things that they're also, making money in the ways in which that they make money that doesn't necessarily come from the hard work that essential workers that we're seeing, trying to keep this economy going. We need justice, y'all. That's really what this is about. And this is something I've been like, toying with literally all day today. I've been just thinking about this for a while, especially, I see organizations raising money, we're doing, mutual aid work, and we're feeding people, and we're doing this and we're doing that. And I'm like, a part of me is like, that's wonderful, but like, this cannot be the direction that we're going in. We can't take money from billionaires and say that we're going to feed 15 or 20 people and call that justice, y'all. Even if we're feeding 50 people or 100 people, how many more people would have been fed if that billionaire had to pay their taxes and their fair share of taxes? We have a regressive tax policy. Unfortunately, this current president, Trump, that was the first thing he did when he got elected in 2016. And he didn't get too much pushback from the majority of the Democratic caucus. I mean, progressive Dems pushed back, but they didn't have any power in terms of leadership or in terms of chairmanships. Politics in this country is trash, y'all. That's how I feel about it. I don't know how you all feel, but it's complete trash. It's not designed in this moment to look out for the regular person. I know personally, I've been helping family. I've been talking to my husband about, like different things that we can be doing to ensure like we have enough money saved in case, shit hits the fan and something goes awry. Like I literally live with that kind of worry. Can you imagine, the kind of worry people live with who may be facing homelessness now in this moment? I just read an article, I believe it was in The Hill yesterday. I'll maybe post a link later in the chat. It was in The Hill, one of the publications that said, even though we have a moratorium on evictions, there are people who are still getting evicted with children. There was a video on Twitter a couple of weeks ago. There was an entire family, a Black family, a mom, a dad, two children, sitting with all of their belongings after getting evicted at a bus stop. And I can never be desensitized to that, y'all. I can never, ever, ever be desensitized to that. That's something that I believe is egregious. It should not be tolerated. I don't think that those of us who work in the and I'm talking to myself too, those of us who work in the social justice industry, if you will, because it's a whole industry now, the nonprofit, some people call it the nonprofit industrial complex, and other countries it's called the NGO, or non-governmental, organizations, NGOs. I won't even get into some of the nefariousness of like why NGOs, especially internationally, were set up to begin with. That will be another show. I'll have an expert come on to really dig into that. But I'm concerned about all of these public-private partnerships where corporations are literally bypassing government and deciding who will get what. I feel like that even about like the, what's it called? The guaranteed income that people are talking about, the universal basic income. Something about that never sat right with me, because nobody is giving you anything for free. My great grandmother taught me that you're not getting anything for free. It may seem like that on the surface, but what's the cost of it really, right? And $1,000 a month, especially like I live in the DC region, $1,000 a month. Okay, that ain't, excuse my friend, but that ain't shit. If you live in California, New York, or the DC area, or some other, high-end area where housing is extremely expensive and food, just the cost of living is just astronomically high, that's not enough. I tend to lean on the side of economist professor Dr. Derek Hamilton talks about federal job guarantee, where we do like go back to the days where our federal government actually taxed in the way that they needed to tax to make sure that we took care of public education and other public goods in this country. I don't know if you all are paying attention, but we're moving away from that. And corporations, particularly big tech corporations, this was, funny because we're on YouTube, that's considered a big tech company. But like they're controlling a lot of things that normally the government would be in control of. And that's just, kind of like my gripe. That's why I got on here to do like an impromptu, but I would love to hear some comments from, some of you. Hey, Dr. Hassan, thank you so much for joining. No, it's not enough. $1,000. Yeah. I know you in California, it's not enough at all. But I've been bothered by this, it's Giving Tuesday. And I'm like, people are actually excited about it. Like, this is like, I want there to be a parallel discussion. Like, yes, I'm not discouraging people to give to organizations. Let me be very clear. Like I said, the organization that I co-founded, the organization that I work for, all of us ran Giving Tuesday campaigns, right? I get it. But what I wanted to kind of put out into the atmosphere, though, today is that can't be where we stop. I want us to remember that we should be also working on policies that would improve the masses of us material conditions, not 100 people here. Because what happens with charity, and I know this because I've been in the nonprofit work for over a decade now, is that really philanthropists and foundations themselves decide what region they're going to give their money to, who they're going to give their money to, what demographic, what issues they care about. You have some billionaires sitting on billions that are not taxed, but they're giving their money to art, right? It's their money, like quote unquote, their money, but it's only their money because we have government policies and practices that are not taxing them on their wealth that would go to the greater good of people to end homelessness. Like, there's literally enough money in this country where no one should be homeless, right? That these are the conversations that I feel like kind of get lost, and then people throw out scary words like, "Ooh, socialism." You know, well, we shouldn't talk about that. That's a scary topic, right? We shouldn't talk about socialism. And, maybe we don't want to talk about socialism, but maybe we want to say, in the wealthiest country in the world, there should be no homelessness. There should be people, there should be people who have healthcare. Everyone should have access to healthcare, right? Like it seems like the basic needs of people at a minimum should be met. The basics. Like, is that socialism? I don't know. I don't really want to get into the isms. I want to get into what's right, and to me, it's not right. I will never be desensitized to seeing homelessness. I'll give you all a story and I'll kind of wrap this up. Thank you, Dr. Hassan, for participating in this. That what your question is, I'm interested in your assessment of transparency in regard to nonprofit org funding, especially in a lot of the pre-trees. Yeah, I saw that. And I'm glad you asked me that question. I'm not a big wig. There's like levels to this nonprofit work, right? Like, I don't consider myself like a big influencer and all of that. Like, I'm not no Sean King or Patrice or any of those folks. And, maybe they had good intentions and were just lured in, by all of the glitz and glam. Because that's the other thing. There seems like a hierarchy. Like, there's activism that's like really grassroots and rugged and we really like in the trenches. That's who I am, right? That's how I started. That's who I continue to be. And I want to continue to remain humble and remain connected to the people on the ground, right? But one of the things that I have seen is that there are people who kind of get drunk with the fame and fortune that comes with activism or that comes with justice work. And that doesn't sit well with me. It just doesn't, because I don't know. That's not what it's about, right? At least not to me. Like, how do you make justice for dead Black people, particularly dead Black men, and then it becomes like you're a celebrity? I don't get that. Like, I don't get that. But I did read, to your point, Dr. Hassan, I did read the articles from the DC chapter of the BLM and the other local chapters. I believe it was 12 local chapters who basically went in like, we tried to do this behind closed doors, but nobody's responding. So here we are, it's public. But I wanted to point out that there were folks in Ferguson, particularly Sister Nyota, Darren Seals, who, as we know, was murdered under suspicious circumstances and no one has been brought to justice. There were several other brothers who were part of the Ferguson Rebellion that were murdered and to this day have not been brought to justice, and they never got close to the glitz and glam and all of the money and TV. I mean, some of these people are getting TV deals and things like that. And, I don't know, man. It's just some about that and I think that's what I'm talking about here. Like, I see a lot of that and we're getting away from the actual justice part. Like, I've also seen like other people who are like prominent, if you will, or like been propped up as activists get really close with the Democratic Party. Like almost like they're appendages of the Democratic Party. And I mean, some of them are like that on the right too. Like, I think Candace Owens, I think she would be considered, I mean, I don't see her as grassroots. Like, she doesn't have like, I don't know whether she has a huge Black following or not. I don't follow her, but I mean, obviously I know of her because she's been in the media and, she's a conservative Black figure that has kind of been propped up. The left and the right strategically prop up their Black figures. Like, that's what they do. I don't think that I have ever fit the mold of that because I've always been so unapologetically Black and unapologetically about Black unity. Like, I don't identify, like, I think one of the qualifiers for me that immediately knocked me out is that I don't identify as a Black feminist. I've been very clear in the social justice movement that, I don't identify with that politically. I identify as an Africana womanist, meaning that I see my struggle as inextricably linked to Black men, not separate at all under any circumstances. And so like, to me, like I would never be propped up on the left, like at all. Maybe not on the right either. I don't know. But I also don't think that I know for a fact, like I don't have a desire for that. Like I actually have a desire for real justice. I have a desire for real redistribution of wealth in this country. And I'm talking about this now because I have been studying the markets recently, within the last, I would say 6 months, studying pretty heavily. And I'm noticing a trend of data, and I think it's been said publicly for people who watch like the World Economic Forum or people who watch CNBC, like this era between 2020 and 2030 has been dubbed the new Roaring 20s, right? It has been dubbed the era of a technocracy, right? Where data and automation, it's coming, like automation of like actual self-driving cars. And I don't want anybody to think I'm crazy if you have not heard of this. I just want you to Google Tesla and self-driving cars and just have a field day and read about that. Also, Google Waymo. If you've never heard of Waymo, it's actually owned by the company, by Google. Google owns YouTube, but it's also getting into self-driving cars. Google all of this stuff. By 2030, we're going to be looking at smart cities. We're going to be looking at where Neuralink is something else that I think people should look into. Neuralink is also an Elon Musk endeavor. I'm not going to tell you what it is. I just want you to Google it, read up on it. You're going to be shocked. Like what? Like WTF. That's why I was like, who would ever sign up for something like this, right? But I'm talking about that because I think we need intervention now, government intervention. I'm also not really sure that we'll get it because all of the people who get the funding to do justice work don't seem to be interested in pushing for accountability, tax accountability, or accountability when it comes to the masses of people. Yes, certain groups of people, but not the masses. And that's what concerns me. When you hear about Black this and Black that, you never hear or see a poor and working class narrative as a part of that Blackness or Black whatever. And that's something that has been, pretty, upsetting to me. And I'll share this story before I wrap up. And I appreciate all of you who are coming in. There's a couple of y'all in here, and Dr. Hassan's been very nice and participating in the chat. I appreciate you, brother. But I want to encourage folks, if you're coming in, like the video, share it, invite others in to the room. I'll wrap this up. Please go back and view it too. Hopefully I, said some things or, said some things that will intrigue you to kind of go and research, and we can talk about it a little bit more. But definitely make sure you like the video and share it. One of the things that happened about 2 weeks ago, my family and I went to Baltimore, and we, kind of just want to get out the house. COVID has just been depressing in a lot of ways. It's really flipped a lot of our lives upside down. Many of us who have small children, our kids have been home. We're homeschooling and still working. So it's just been a lot. And we just kind of wanted to get out the house. I told my husband, I'm like, I'm tapped out. I don't want to cook today. So we drove up to Baltimore just to get out of the house. And it's about 40 minutes from where we live. We drove the scenic route just to have something to do. But when we got to the restaurant to get something to eat, I noticed there was this small encampment. And I said, damn, those people are homeless. And my husband was like, yeah, man. And we live in Silver Spring. So that's suburban DC, is Montgomery County, Maryland is, it's we have our own, poverty and all of that, but it's at a different level in Baltimore and DC. It's at a whole nother level. And we sat there because, of course, you can't go into a restaurant here. You have to wait and curbside. And while we were sitting there, one of the person's move, they were up under a bunch of blankets because it's cold, it's winter, right? And immersed a Black man. And I had tears in my eyes, and I said, I can never be desensitized to that. Before COVID, I traveled all around this country. Those of you who follow me on social media, you know that I traveled a lot. And I went from west to east, north to south, Midwest, everywhere in between. And no matter where I went, from New Orleans, Miami, the Bay Area, California, New York City, right here in the DC region, no matter where I went, every time I saw a homeless encampment, they were always full of Black men. And I was like, why is this tolerable to people? Why is this tolerable? Why have we decided that Black men are basically disposable? Black people are disposable in this country. Why is that okay? And it's like, you know, all these social justice groups, and I'm just like, why is everybody blind? Do they not see what I see? Because I know they travel, they hop in planes too. Like I know they traveling like how I'm traveling. And I'm just like, this ain't right. We talking about, like, of course, we just went through the whole voting thing. And y'all know I don't discourage people not to vote, but that ain't my thing. You know, like I get like we need the policies and practices, but I'm all about what Cube was trying to do, even with the flaws in his plan. Like Black people deserve to have specific set of demands agreed upon before we vote for anybody. This idea of just voting one party, this idea of just voting just to be voting because, you know, our ancestors did this and that. Our ancestors did a lot of things, but we ain't talking about all the other things that they did. But, you know, this idea that we should just be voting to just be voting. No, we need specific, concrete policy agreements that are agreed to prior to going to the voting booth. I am so tired of seeing us being pimped for our votes, particularly with the Democratic Party. And I have to call that out because we're literally the only subgroup of people who vote the way that we do, meaning that we vote 9 times out of 10 for one particular party. However, our material conditions have not improved in the last. In fact, our material conditions have continued to worsen under both administrations. This is at the state, local, because most of these homelessness policies, a lot of that is local. A lot of this gentrification that we're seeing, that's local. And when you think about the cities that we live in that are predominantly Black, I mean, who controls those cities? Like, I'm not up here, I'm independent. You know, I started off as a Democrat. Clearly, I'm Black and my family, you know, was very active. And of course, you know, so therefore I was active, but we were active in the Democratic Party. It was, for me, I woke up and was like, this is some BS. This is not right? Like, this is BS. I'm not dealing with this. And that experience was in Ohio where I saw like the game. It's literally a game. It is a game. You know, that's right. You know, Black male homelessness can get up to 89% Black homelessness depending on the city. And it's exacerbated by incarceration. That's true because I know HUD policies, although I thought we have to look this up, Dr. Hassan, but I thought HUD had adjusted their policies where felons could stay in HUD housing, because I know for years, felons, if you had a felony, even if you had a girlfriend or your mom or somebody in your family was living in HUD housing, you were not allowed to live there. And if it was found out that you were living there, that person would lose their HUD voucher or lose their housing. So I know that has been an issue for years, but I believe, I want to say out under the outgoing Obama administration, that rule was changed. We'll have to look that up, but I'm not sure. In hell, under Trump, they might have reversed it. Who knows? But yeah, y'all, I just wanted to come on here. Like I said, this was impromptu. I was feeling it in my spirit. You know, of course, it's Giving Tuesday, and I'm all about giving, but that's not justice, y'all. We need these billionaires. And keep in mind, billionaires have actually grown over the years. They've actually grown in the last 5 years. Billionaires have grown in the last 5 years. And most of them, if not all of them, are white male. And the white women, like Jeff Bezos' now ex-wife, she's a billionaire because she was married to him and she helped him build a company or whatever, Amazon. So, this is why I believe we need good policy. Now, one of the things about voting this year that I wasn't excited about is that with Joe Biden, he wasn't promising any kind of radical, and this is what we need at this time. I want to be clear. We need a radical change in policy. I'm talking about, an aggressive tax to tax the billionaires, especially the billionaire technocrats. Like, they need to be taxed, and we need to use those taxes to help everyday working people who are continuing to sink further into further poverty and debt. And that's something that, I just didn't see. Nobody, he literally was quoted as saying at a billionaire fundraising. Then that's the other thing. I don't know if people know, but this is also public knowledge. Excuse me, if you Google it, is that Joe Biden actually raised the majority of his money from Wall Street. Wall Street, by and large, supported Joe Biden's presidency over Trump's. Now, I know it's not popular to talk about, but I noticed that, and that didn't give me a good feeling. It's because of what we're talking about right now. He has to give them something in return for that. And do you think he's going to give them high taxes? The other thing is that the organizations who were like telling us to get out and vote, it was just an anti-Trump message. It wasn't about what we should be for. It wasn't these numbers that Dr. Hassan just quoted in our chat here. Black male homelessness can get up to 80 to 90%. Nobody's talking about that at the national level in any kind of policy discussions and conversations. So it's tough, And Trayvon said, I'm with you, Queen. While some of our brothers and sisters fight for government policies, others need to establish and innovate new ways to get our men and women off the street. I absolutely agree. And that's what we're talking about. Like, I agree with the mutual aid. Like, I just don't want us to get stuck there and lose sight, if you will. I don't want us to lose sight on the fact that we also still need organizations who's pushing for policy and practices that will get rid of the need for mutual aid, who will get rid of the need for all of these NGOs and nonprofits who are doing all this work. Like the nonprofit industrial complex, if you think about it, in concert with lowering taxes, the nonprofit industrial complex has grown over the years. That's backwards to me. The nonprofit industrial complex should be decreasing while taxes for the wealthy and us being able to make sure that people have their basic needs met, that should be the direction that we're going in. But with both parties being bought out by corporations, like both major political parties in this country, I'm sad. I don't see it happening. I don't know if, what you guys think about that. I don't know if, you guys are a part of any organizations or organizing with any organizations to push for actual policies that will improve the material conditions of our people. That's what my whole rant is about. But I appreciate, this is great, y'all. This is some good discussion in the chat. But yeah, I'm gonna wrap this up, but make sure you like the video, please, and share it out. I want to get more comments. I want to see what other people have to say about this, right? I want to see if other people have the same feeling, but, just kind of get, torn between like doing your own thing and like making sure your own needs are met. And then also giving to the right organizations, but at the same time, like also needing to like make sure that our government is stepping up for people. One last thing I wanted to leave this question with, and hopefully we can get more comments on this at some point, even after we wrap the video, is what do you guys think we should be doing to try to push policies and practices, push policies and practices in our country that will improve the masses of our people, improve the material conditions for the masses of our people, not just a few of us, because usually when you think about a nonprofit, they don't have enough capacity or staff to like do more than 50 or 100 people, in terms of like feeding people or like, buying clothes for people. Like, I don't know. I don't like things. The other thing about me is I don't like things given to me. Like I want an opportunity to prosper. Like I want an opportunity to have access, to opportunity, not necessarily receive charity, if that makes sense. And I'm afraid that we have gone so far to where charity is just seen as the justice, and charity is not justice. So I just want to know what y'all think about that. How can we push our lawmakers to push them on this issue? Like, you all need to raise taxes on these corporations like Amazon, who I don't believe has paid taxes in years. Hell, Trump paid $750 in taxes, right? I mean, that should be against the law. Anybody that's worth multi-millions, because think about it, a billionaire, that to me, I don't know how y'all feel about that, but billionaires, like, to me, I feel like that's even wrong, because $1 billion, right? Like, who needs that much money to live, right? Like, you literally have so much money that you can decide that how much you want to give away and what you want to give away to. I just want y'all to think about that, The other thing about that is, structurally, if there is a billionaire, that means that somebody's labor was exploited in the process. A lot of people's labor was exploited in the process, right? I'm not up here not preaching against prosperity, because I think we all, want prosperity. We all want to live a good and decent life. I don't know that I aspire to be a billionaire. If I would ever was a billionaire, I wouldn't be a billionaire for long, because I would give away the vast majority of the wealth and keep anything that I needed just to live, and live comfortably for me and my family. But yeah. I just had to get on here, y'all. Appreciate the comments. Hey, family. Oh, you got to be on speaker at the hospital. Appreciate this comments and appreciate the participation today. This was great, y'all. Make sure y'all like the video and share. But want to know really quickly, or think about it. Take some time to think about it and come back and comment. How can we organize to push for the things really that Bernie Sanders was running on? I was a Bernie supporter for that reason, because he was running on a radical, what to people in America would be think radical was he was running on aggressively taxing these billionaires. He was running on providing, universal housing, right? Of course he had his problems. Most, white politicians do. But I think when it came to these issues around people's material conditions, I thought he had the best platform. And so, maybe we can support some of the things that, he's talking about. We got the sisters, the squad in the House of Representatives, Ilhan Omar, Ayanna Pressley, what's the sister from Michigan? They all got reelected this time around, but we have those folks in the House of Representatives, and AOC, and I forget the sister in Michigan. She took the elder, I can't think of his name. He introduced HR 40 30 years ago. And now, when he passed away, then Sheila Jackson Lee took it up. I cannot think of his name right now. Anyway, I'm blanking. Anyway, I've been on here way too long. It's almost 40 minutes, but I appreciate the participation from y'all, family. Like the video, share the video, and invite people to subscribe to the channel. I will be back here on Thursday night. This was an impromptu video. Thursday nights at 8 p.m. will be my normal show times. And Dr. Jared Ball will be my guest. He is going to come on and talk about media literacy. I can't wait to talk about the media with y'all, family. Oh my goodness. That's going to be a very exciting conversation. He's also going to talk about the myth of Black buying power, which is kind of going to feed into what I was talking about tonight. And share some statistics on that as well, in terms of, where Black wealth stands, if, there is some Black wealth, how small it is in context of other groups of people. Thank y'all. So share the video, like and subscribe. See y'all Thursday night.